Alright people, so welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our current affairs lecture series. Now today we are going to cover current affairs from 7th of August. So all the important news items that featured in 7th of August's newspapers shall be covered in today's lecture, okay? So without further delay, without further ado, let's straight away dive into the lecture. But first let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover, okay? So let's begin. So daily current affairs, 7th of August, and here are the topics that we shall cover. Number 1, India's Deep Tech Fund. It is a 1 lakh crore fund that will fund startups in deep technologies like high-tech technologies so that India grows in science and technology field and we create startups that involve deep technologies like AI, quantum computing and all. So it's an important corpus or an important fund that would take India towards the road or that would take India towards Vikasit Bharat status, right? So this is topic number 1. And then topic number 2 is GOBARdhan scheme to cut gas imports. We are dependent on Strait of Hormuz for LNG gas imports, and LNG is really important for our, energy supplies. But we have found a good substitute for this LNG, okay, and that is biogas. To promote biogas production in India, we have launched GOBARdhan scheme. So we'll talk about this. Then topic number 3 is related to the Jantar Mantar protest. States to withdraw FIRs against students. Now, the Supreme Court ordered to the different state governments to withdraw FIRs against innocent protesting students, right? Now, it has hit certain roadblocks, this withdrawal. So, we would talk about the legal thing, okay? We would talk about the legal requirements to withdraw an FIR. Once an FIR is filed, how to withdraw it, okay? And last topic is a very controversial one. Thousands of government schools shut. Many government schools are shutting down and people are crying foul on this. Well, they are saying that Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is a casualty because of this. But there are different reasons why government schools are shutting down. So we will talk about this as well. Okay. So these are the 4 news items that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number 1, and that is India's Deep Tech Fund. Look, if by 2047 India has to achieve the status of a developed economy, okay, that is if India wants to become Vikasit Bharat by 2047, well, high-tech startups should take the lead. Now, what do I mean by high-tech startups? India has a good startup ecosystem. There are so many good brands which started as startups and now they are leading industry captains, right? For example, these food delivery apps and all these things. But India lacks in one particular area. We do not have these unicorns in deep technologies. Okay, deep technologies which require high-tech research. For example, AI, Internet of Things, quantum computing, right? All these deep tech startups are found in USA or China. Now, if India wants to take its rightful place in the Committee of Nations, India wants to be a science and technology superpower, India needs to nurture these deep tech startups. Because the problem is that these deep tech startups have an idea, okay, which involves high technology. They have an idea, but for that idea to come to fruition, they require a lot of funds for research and development. And most of the times, well, these private capitalists do not have the risk appetite to fund them because it involves a lot of risk. Whether their idea will work or not, there is a lot of risk. Now, in this area, the government wants to enter. Government will fund these highly risky, high-tech, deep tech startups. And for that, they have launched this Deep Tech Fund with a corpus of 1 lakh crore. That's huge. But this Deep Tech Fund, though everyone is praising it, there are some controversies attached to it. There are certain challenges. So we have to look into those as well. Okay, so let's begin. So India's Deep Tech Fund. Okay, so the name of the fund is RDI Fund, Research, Development and Innovation Fund, with a corpus of 1 lakh crore, is India's premier public funding initiative designed to scale up indigenous deep technology innovation and bridge long-term risk capital deficits for private sector research. Okay, because this highly risky capital is not provided by the market. You know, when these deep tech startups have to do a lot of research and development on their idea, well, they do not receive any funds because people are risk averse. Banks are risk averse, these venture capitalists are risk averse. So it is at this stage, this critical stage, that these deep tech startups do not receive these critical funding, critical funds. Okay, this particular phase in any startup is known as Valley of Death. This is a phase where, well, it's the most difficult to survive. And government wants to support these startups at this phase only, Valley of Death. Okay. Administered under the umbrella of Anusandhan National Research Foundation, the fund provides low cost, very low interest rate, collateral free soft loans. Soft loans means very low interest rates to private enterprises operating in strategic high risk sectors. High risk sectors. We'll talk about that. Okay. Now, this is the fund. This is the implementation architecture of this fund. So, this RDI fund will be implemented by this organization called Anusandhan National Research Foundation. Now, this Anusandhan National Research Foundation has 4 wings. Each wing caters to a particular category of technology. So, Technology Development Board, which would be under Department of Science and Technology. Then there would be a Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, which would be under BIRAC. Then investment committees would be there. Their whole job would be to evaluate startups. So startups will receive funding from this organization, but startups have to apply. And their application would be evaluated by these investment committees, whether to fund the startup or not, whether their idea has some weight or not. Investment committees for biotech. Okay, normal investment committees for biotech. Now here are the key details of this entire deep tech fund. So corpus is 1 lakh crore. Who would implement it? Anusandhan National Research Foundation. Other implementing agencies, Technology Development Board, Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, BIRAC. Financial instrument. Collateral free soft loans. Interest rate would be 2 to 4%. Loan tenure would be up to 15 years, long term. And project funding cap covers up to 50% of the total project cost. So that high, right? 50% would have to be, well, you have to get it from somewhere else. 50% is a lot that the government is ready to take care of. So this is the thing. Okay. Now, what is the eligibility criteria for startups? So you see, government has identified certain levels of your technology. Okay. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Level 4 means that your technology is high tech, deep tech, and you have proof of concept, whether your idea will work or not. You have run some experiments, and in those experiments, you have showcased that your idea will work. That would receive this TRL 4 level, and only these startups are allowed. So technologies must have reached at least technology readiness level, proof of concept. Exclusion of basic research. If you have just done basic research, that is not covered. That is under level 1, 2, 3. And what is the evaluation criteria? Well, these investment committees would check a particular startup on their scientific and technological merit, technological feasibility, risk profile, how risky their investment is, financial viability, whether they'll be able to earn money in future or not, commercial potential, okay, and strategic sovereign value, which means whether the startup has commercial potential and whether the startup can help India to grow. Whether it will help India's defense industry, India's science and technology industry. So what value it has for India, that would also be checked. And if a particular startup has a lot of value for India, like SpaceX has for USA, right? So then, well, the committees would think about funding these startups, right? Now, these are the technologies that would be covered. Remember, valley of death, AI and supercomputing, quantum, semiconductor, space tech, defense, robotics, clean energy, biotechnology, right? These industries would be covered under this. Now, there are certain challenges. Remember, I told you that there will be some controversy. There is a hefty amount of money, hefty sum of money, 1 lakh crore. So obviously there are some challenges. Now, what are those risks? High concentration. 62% of the funds went to 15 firms tied to 7 selection panel members. So there was clear-cut allegation of conflict of interest. These investment committees, okay, these investment committees have members. These members evaluate the potential of a startup. Well, 62% of the funds went to those 15 firms who had some connections with the members of this selection committee. This is a clear-cut violation of, it is a clear-cut example of conflict of interest. Okay, so conflict of interest is there. There is a credible allegation in that regard. Perceived impropriety, potential bias in funding high-risk private ventures. Now, the government has given a justification to this. Government and panel defense, merit-based selection, decisions taken without input from panel members who had connections with these 15 members. So it was a consensus-based decision. Small deep tech ecosystem. The government says that, well, the deep tech ecosystem is very small. Everyone knows everyone. Very few people are involved in this deep technology industry. So top industry experts inevitably hold stakes in top startups. So this is there. Strict recusal executed. Panelists recuse themselves during specific evaluation. If a particular panelist has high shareholding in a particular startup, they would recuse themselves, or that means they would remove themselves from the panel for that particular startup. So these things were already taken care of. That is government's justification. But it is because of this controversy that this deep tech fund was in the news, and that is why we are discussing it. Nonetheless, you should be aware of this controversy. Okay. Now, what is the significance of this deep tech fund for India? Well, we all know. It will help these startups overcome the valley of death. It will reduce critical import dependency for India. India is dependent on foreign startups for certain items. That would be reduced. Okay. Crowding in private R&D capital. It reduces risks for private venture capital by offering matching soft loans covering up 50% of the project expenditure. This is known as crowding in private investment, which means that if there is a startup which is highly risky, listen to me very carefully what this crowding in means. It is very risky. Nobody is ready to fund it. Then government funds 50%. Okay, government shows faith. Now private people won't consider the startup to be that risky because it has been evaluated by the government and government has given it a green signal. Now other private investors would be comfortable providing the remaining 50%. So by giving it a government validation, you are crowding in private investment. So this is, well, good news, right? So this is the thing. So this will take India forward. It's a good beginning, okay? Money well spent, basically. All right then. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is GOBARdhan scheme to cut gas imports. Well, we are dependent on natural gas. That is there. Natural gas is used to produce electricity. Natural gas is also used to produce fertilizers. Okay, and our entire agricultural industry or agricultural sector is dependent on fertilizers. Now, when this Strait of Hormuz crisis was going on, well, there was shortage of LNG, and that's where India felt the pain. And that pain spurred us to find alternatives. So we are in search for alternatives because you never know, Strait of Hormuz can be blocked again. So what are these alternatives? There is a huge list of alternatives. One item on that list is biogas. And biogas can be produced by agricultural waste, organic waste. So India produces a lot of agricultural waste. Okay, we just need production units for converting this agricultural waste into biogas. And this biogas can easily replace LNG. So for that, government has launched GOBARdhan scheme. Okay, so let's talk about GOBARdhan scheme, its pillars and how it will be beneficial. Let's talk about this. So GOBARdhan scheme to cut gas imports. Union Cabinet approved GOBARdhan, galvanizing organic bioagro resource Dhan, national circular bioenergy, with a total budgetary outlay of 23,000 crores, implemented over 10-year horizon, up till 2035-36. The scheme aims to scale up domestic compressed biogas, okay, by tenfold. So the current amount of biogas that we produced, we want to 10x that. Okay, it is administered by Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Clear, simple. Now, what is the process? National Circular Bioenergy Pipeline. So we will first of all aggregate organic feedstock, organic waste like crop residue, dung, press mud, municipal waste. All of this would be aggregated. Then it would be put under or put inside anaerobic digesters. What do you mean by anaerobic digestion? Well, this organic waste is converted into biogas. Do you know how? By the action of anaerobic bacteria. Anaerobic bacteria, what does that mean? Well, this bacteria would decompose this waste in the absence of oxygen. That's what anaerobic means. Some bacteria require oxygen presence for their action to begin. Some do not require any oxygen. So this is anaerobic digestion, vacuum digesters, okay? Purification, conversion, then after creation of biogas, you would further purify it to create compressed biogas. And two things would come out. Compressed biogas would come out, which would easily replace CNG networks, and organic manure would come out, which would be used as fertilizer, manure for improving soil health. So it's a win-win situation. Through this, you'll not only get biogas, which will reduce your, well, natural gas imports, you will also get organic manure, which would be used by farmers to improve soil fertility. So it's a good thing, win-win situation. Now, for this GOBARdhan scheme to be successful, well, government is working on 6 pillars. Okay, what are those 6 pillars of GOBARdhan scheme? Number 1, assured demand. Why would people produce biogas if there is no demand for it? So government has assured demand. And what is that demand? Mandatory 5% or 3%. Currently it's 3%. Blending of CBG with CNG, compressed natural gas. Okay, like ethanol blending. So there is assured demand. Then biogas producers would get administered pricing, like MSP like deal. Okay, assured pricing. So they don't have to worry about price. Capital assistance. If you want to create a biogas plant, government would provide up to 2 crore funding. Okay. Then pipeline connectivity. This biogas would be connected to CNG pipelines. This would be there. Government would provide credit support. So all the MSMEs and rural entrepreneurs who want to take loans from banks. Well, banks are not ready to provide loans to these entrepreneurs because, well, banks think that it's risky. But government is taking credit guarantee that if these rural entrepreneurs are unable to pay you back, we will pay this amount back on behalf of those rural entrepreneurs. Then this loan becomes less risky for banks. So they are ready to offer these loans at lower interest rates. Okay, so interest rates come down if there is low risk on a loan. So this is there. And ecosystem challenge fund, district level planning, feedstock mapping. So all these 6 pillars are being simultaneously worked upon for success of GOBARdhan scheme. Okay. Now biogas is not, it's not something new. Government already government had launched various schemes to promote biogas. Okay. The previous version of GOBARdhan scheme was Satat initiative, but it did not work that well. And that is why GOBARdhan is replacing it or would run complementary to it. So there is a comparison between Satat and GOBARdhan. Basically how GOBARdhan is better than Satat. And this comparison is given in the form of a table in your notes. Very easy to understand. So do go through it. Okay. Now, all of this sounds very good on paper, but there are certain challenges. What are those challenges? Let's talk about this. So, supply of organic waste. This is a big challenge. Then pipeline grid proximity. Well, CNG pipelines are generally far away from, agricultural areas. So, if you have a biogas plant, CBG plant, the pipeline would be far away from that. So, there are transportation challenges. And organic manure offtake. The byproduct, that is the organic manure that would be produced. Well, is there enough demand among farmers for this organic manure? That is something to be worked out. So, these are certain challenges because, you have to make it monetarily, financially viable for rural entrepreneurs to get a biogas plant. If they are able to get good price on organic manure, then only they would be interested in this. So this is the thing. This challenge, government needs to work upon it. Right? That would be all. And now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is states to withdraw FIRs against students. Now you all know what happened at Jantar Mantar. Now there were certain peaceful protesters, genuine students were there, but there were reports that certain unruly segments of society, certain people with criminal backgrounds also joined these protests and they were behaving badly with the police personnel. Therefore, state police launched or filed FIRs against various student protesters. Now there were allegations that there were certain genuine protesters, student protesters who have FIRs lodged against them. Now they approached the Honorable Supreme Court and said, genuine student protesters shouldn't be facing these FIRs. Okay, criminal people with criminal antecedents, they should face the heat of the machine, government machinery, but not genuine student protesters. Therefore, Supreme Court passed an order, and Supreme Court ordered all states that look, students with no criminal background, FIR should be withdrawn against them. Now, states have said that we have already filed FIRs. And the withdrawal procedure is a little complicated and there are procedural problems. So this would take time. Okay. So currently, despite Supreme Court's order, some FIRs are still lodged against peaceful student protesters. This is the current issue. Now we need to inquire into that procedure through which FIRs can be withdrawn. You should be aware of that. You should be aware of the legal provisions as a UPSC aspirant, right? Under what provisions can FIRs be withdrawn, not filed, withdrawn. So we'll focus on that. So let's talk about this, okay? So states to withdraw FIRs against students, right? So Supreme Court bench comprised Chief Justice, okay, issued key clarifications regarding legal procedure for closing or withdrawing FIRs. okay, registered against student protesters during Cockroach Janata Party protests. The clarification addressed concerns that an earlier interim order permitting state authorities to continue investigations while protecting students without criminal antecedents was obstructing executive assurance or amnesty. Basically, what was the issue? Well, look at this timeline. So July 28, Supreme Court ordered restrained coercive action against students lacking criminal antecedents. Okay, state can file FIRs. Okay, the Supreme Court said in its interim order, state can file FIRs, and states do not need to withdraw these FIRs against those students which or those people which had criminal background, criminal antecedents. Okay, this was the order. But then we found those students who had no criminal background, okay, but they had a challan pending, okay, they had minor offenses registered under their name. Now, should the states withdraw FIRs against them or not? Right? This was the big question. So there were few people who had minor offenses like breaking a red light, all these things, traffic violations against them. So FIRs were not withdrawn against them. Okay, state executive assurances of case withdrawn faced procedural friction under statutory requirements. Therefore, the Supreme Court gave a clarification and said criminal antecedents means grave, heinous offenses, serious crimes. And the Supreme Court gave a definition of those serious crimes. Okay, if that is there, then do not withdraw any FIR. For minor offenses, withdraw the FIR. This was the clarification. Now, you should be aware what is the procedure of withdrawing a criminal case, how an FIR can be withdrawn. So, what are the legal routes? Route 1, police investigation. Well, police has filed an FIR, police will continue its investigation and file a closure report under section 193 of BNSS, Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita. In that closure report, they'll say that we have found nothing. I mean, there is nothing serious about this person, so we are closing it. Second route is that the public prosecutor, the government lawyer, files a withdrawal case under section 360. Public prosecutor says that we don't want to pursue this case against this person. So this can be done with the court's consent. Court's permission is required. And judicial quashing. High Court or Supreme Court uses its inherent power under section 528 and orders the police to withdraw the FIR. This is the third route. High Court or Supreme Court. Okay, this is the third route. Now, the thing is, well, now the Supreme Court has clarified, withdraw these FIRs. Do not withdraw those FIRs against those students which have serious crimes registered against their name. That is there. Now, in the past also, Supreme Court has given certain judgments which clarifies this matter. Okay, we need to be aware of those. We need to be aware of these judicial precedents. Okay, number one, well, Bihar, state of Bihar versus Ram Naresh Pandey. The court's role, established the court's role in granting consent. So court should be granting the consent to withdraw the FIR. It prevents arbitrary withdrawal for political cronism. Basically, if you want to withdraw an FIR, if public prosecutor wants to withdraw an FIR, court's consent is required. Why was this rule established? Okay, why did the court say that court's permission is required? Because sometimes, well, the public prosecutor or the government will favor can favor their near and dear ones. Okay, and they withdraw a case. So the previous government filed a case against a businessman, but that businessman was closed with the next government. As soon as the next government comes to power, they withdraw the case. So this is bad. So court's permission is required. Then Baroda Dynamite case. Recognize that lack of evidence is not the sole ground for withdrawal. Okay, lack of evidence is not the sole ground. It provides legal precedent for granting amnesty to political and student demonstrators. This was there. Then there was another two cases, very easy to understand. I mean, you don't need my explanation. Just read through these two paragraphs and the matter would be clear to you. Okay, yeah. Judicial clarification. The judiciary, the Supreme Court, after their interim order, over here, this August 3 clarification. First of all, they said, well, narrow definition of criminal antecedents, grave and heinous offenses. Okay. Classification of protesters is important. The court urged a systematic segregation mechanism to separate genuine peaceful protesters from infiltrators, criminal people. Then crowd control and pellet gun. The Supreme Court came down heavy on the police that why did you use pellet gun, and you need to have proper SOPs for crowd control. That was not found at the Jantar Mantar protest. And surveillance and facial recognition that was being used by the Delhi police. Well, it is a violation of right to privacy. So without consent, you can't do it. The Supreme Court has taken cognizance of this matter as well. Okay, so this is the thing. That's all you need to know. Now let's quickly shift our focus to last news item of the day, and that is thousands of government schools shut. Now the opposition parties are criticizing the government that since the time you guys came to power, well, government schools have been shutting down. Now that is really bad because government's aim is Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Everyone should be educated, right? If government schools are shutting down, well, how would people be able to access free and fair education? Not free and fair, but free access to education, free and quality education, if government schools are shutting down. Now, the optics of this matter appears bad for the ruling government, but the ruling government has come out with the answer, and as per their answer, they are saying that it's not that we are shutting these schools down. Well, these schools are shutting down because of lack of demand. There are not many students in these schools. Okay, and we are not shutting these schools down. We are consolidating the schools. So if there are 2 schools with only 5 students studying in each school, then we need to combine these 2 schools into one and make a 10-student school. At least that would be a bigger school with better quality of teachers, labs, and all these facilities. So we are consolidating. So these are the 2 sides of the debate. So let's inquire into this matter. Okay. So thousands of government schools shut. So a recent report by Niti Aayog and official Unified District Information System data revealed that 94,000 government schools were shut down in this time period. Now let's quickly talk about this. Okay, government schools shut down, enrollment fell from 13.62 crore to 12.16 crores. Okay, so enrollment in government schools shut down, but parallelly enrollment in private schools increased. Number of private unaided schools have increased. Enrollment also rose from 8.42 to 9.59. Okay, so what are the core drivers? Why is this happening? Demographic transition and falling fertility rates. Fertility rates are falling. Okay, so because fertility rates are falling, there are not enough kids. When there were enough kids, these schools were created. But now the number of kids are coming down because fertility rates have fallen. So there is fall in demand. Then changing parental preferences. Parents are preferring to send their schools to private schools and they are not ready to enroll their kids to government schools. This is a problem. Then as per national education policy, it advocates grouping low enrollment schools into school complexes. Okay, low enrollment schools should be consolidated. That is what national education policy says. And there are certain schools which are single teacher schools. Only one teacher is there. Okay, thousands of rural schools operate with a single teacher managing multiple grades simultaneously. Now this is wrong. So consolidate these schools. You will have multiple teachers, multiple classrooms, multiple facilities, multiple labs, playgrounds, all of that. So consolidation is important, right? Now, this is a table which gives arguments on both sides of the aisle. Okay, people who favor consolidation, these are the arguments. People who are against this closure, this consolidation, these are their arguments. The last column. So what are 4 arguments? Facilitates grade specific subject dedicated teachers. Okay, concentrates funds towards science, labs, computers, playgrounds. Holistic development would be there. Offers better sanitation facilities for females. But the arguments against: multi-grade teaching persists if merged schools remain under-resourced. Okay, you will merge them, but if you will not give them funds, what is the purpose of merging them? Close local schools, leave buildings abandoned, creating community and safety hazards. Violates the 1 kilometer rule, that there should be a school within your 1 kilometer vicinity as per Right to Education Act. That would get violated. Longer commute, and because schools are not in your 1 kilometer vicinity, well, you will have to travel to your school. That is, well, a different challenge because it would involve longer distances. Sometimes it's challenging for females, young girls to travel that far. All of this would be there, right? Safe transportation. So what is the way forward? If you are going forward towards consolidation, well, at least guarantee safe public transportation. Allow for community-led participatory audits of these schools. These schools should be audited by panchayats, gram sabhas, honest third-party audits, whether these schools are performing well or not. Upgrade the infrastructure and English pedagogy, because many parents are not sending their kids to government schools because they think English is not taught well over there. Okay, and measure the performance of education in India not through the number of schools or number of enrollments. Check the quality of education these kids are receiving. Learning outcomes, not how many students enrolled, because students might enroll, but if they are not taught anything, what's the purpose of them enrolling? So check their quality of education, learning outcomes. That is a better metric, right? That would be all. So with that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you're consistent and regular with this lecture series and you revise this lecture from the notes provided by us. So in that hope that you are precisely going to do that, I shall take your leave with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.